Broncos country, the Troy Franklin development has been very apparent this year, and I just want to point out a few different key areas where we've seen growth and development from him in this offense in year two. Being a fourth round pick, he's taken a substantial jump. So, y'all let me know your thoughts on Troy Franklin. Who would you comp him to? Whether it's a former Bronco, a former NFL wide receiver on another team, let me know in the comments. But let's start with some of the pure surface level takeaways right now. When we look at the statistics from just the season totals, okay? The Broncos are at 6-2 right now. They have 9 games left, and we can see right now that Troy Franklin has already surpassed those totals here that he had all of last year. So let's go ahead and compare these. So, funny enough, he's at the same amount of targets that he had all of last season. Okay. He has 3 more receptions than he did last year so far, 30 to 33. Reception percentage has gone up about 8% to 63.5 this year. And his yards eclipsing the 317 that he had throughout last season already at not even midway through the season. 358 yards, over 10 yards per reception again, and 4 touchdowns. When we look at how he's been utilized, let's look at that as well because it has been a little bit different. And this is going to show you the growth that he's had in this offense. You guys will enjoy the charts that we show here in a minute as well. But look at this slot percentage is up from 33% this past year in 2024 to 55.4 this year. And that means him going out wide has diminished from 67% to 44.2. I think that him being in the slot has been very, very helpful. And again, with his speedy and big frame at 6'3, Troy Franklin does present a mismatch against a lot of these slot corners. No doubt about it. And Sean Payton and Troy are starting to figure this out. Um, and just one more data point that I wanted to show here. This is 2025. You can see where his receptions have come from on the field. 12 of them from behind the line of scrimmage, 14 in the short to intermediate or to the short game, 0 to 9 yards. Medium, this is the highest target percentage that he's had. 17. Sorry, guys, these are targets. 12 targets, 14 targets, and then 9 targets over 20 yards. But you can see he has 9 receptions in this intermediate area. That is huge. 10 receptions in the short area. Excuse me, really quick. Now let's compare this to 2024, where we saw basically half of his targets being behind the line of scrimmage last year in his rookie year. You can see 15. So not nearly as much being in the short to intermediate part of the field. Again, he had 20 targets deep, but it was either behind the line of scrimmage or it was over 20 yards. You were using him in pretty simple, screens, or he's running, goes, deep patterns, things like that. Now, again, you're starting to see him develop in his route running and his utilization this year. Again, I think they've been asking him to do some different things out of the slot this year. And I want to give Troy Franklin credit. He now has a contested catch rate of, I want to say, it's like 50%. I think he's caught 4 of 8, whereas I think his contested catch rate was like 30% or so in 2024. When we take a look at the passing charts too, the receiving charts, you guys will find this pretty interesting. This is we only have 2 to go off of from NFL Next Gen Stats, but it's pretty cool. You can just see the utilization has been different. You can see that he's been lining up on all sorts of different parts of the field, and you can see here week 2 his receptions kind of came all over the field, and he is getting a lot of yak, which you'll love to see. So he's catching it and then getting yards upfield. Caught this one right here, which was really, really nice. You can see start to be used a little bit all over the field. But I loved his route chart here in week 8. This was beautiful. I think that this gives a pretty clear idea of like how we're able to use him, not only on these like long developing routes because he can get downfield so quickly, but using him over the middle with posts Look at that. Look at all that yak in green. Um, yeah, these deep patterns out wide, 2 touchdowns over here. That's beautiful over the middle part of the field and on a one-on-one route to where he absolutely burned that DB. He's showing that he's much more than a screen guy and then a go ball guy. You see him starting to run more of these intermediate routes where he's catching the ball between, again, 10 and 20 yards. Very, very impressive. You can run him on outs. You can run him on deep crossers. You can run him on shallow crossers. And of course, Troy is able, especially being in motion, he can run these these funny, like they're almost like wheel route patterns coming out of the slot. But it's all pretty interesting, man. Like how they're utilizing him compared to like last year. Let me try and take a look at this. If they had any charts for him, I'm not really sure. Let's see here. So we had one from week 7 of last year where he had okay, just not nearly as much usage as you can see. They use him on, an out over here. Again, stuff behind the line of scrimmage, kind of a deep over route there, which is nice. Probably on some flood action that Sean Payton loves running. But you can just see here, and not all the data, but you can see here that he is starting to run a wider route tree. He is starting to be utilized a little bit differently in some new ways. So I think like right now, will Troy Franklin reach 1,000 yards on the season? I don't know about that, but I think he's on pace to hopefully get around, 800 yards. And I think that that's a tremendous jump from his rookie year. And guys, remember, we're talking about a 4th round pick and a guy who was one of the youngest players in last year's draft, might have been the youngest receiver in last year's draft class. So hats off to Troy for him working the concentration issues. While they're still there a little bit, the consistency has far improved. And as long as he continues to make these little steps, I think he could be a nice, dependable weapon for us. Hopefully, come the stretch of the season and into playoff time. So, not necessarily a reason. Troy is a reason why you'd want to maybe go acquire a different type of player that's not a wide receiver, maybe a tight end, maybe a linebacker, offensive lineman. But him, as well as Marvin Mims, I have been impressed with, and I cannot wait to see how they finish the 2025 season.